Welcome to Talking Dick Faces, America's favorite true crime podcast. All right, no, it's not. It's hi, welcome to Just the Tipsters,
Oh boy.
America's favorite true crime podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Morgan. My beautiful and talented co-host.
And please welcome my other dick face.
I told you not to make me laugh. You don't have a dick face. It's a beautiful non-dick face.
Well, thank you very much.
It's not even, it doesn't even resemble any organ I can think of. It's your own unique visage.
Oh boy. Thank you.
Yeah. Welcome to Just the Tipsters. I'm your host, Melissa Morgan, and this is my lovely and talented co-host, Joshua Bevan. Say hello, Joshua.
Hello.
Yeah, there's the dulcet tones of Joshua Bevan.
Oh boy.
So happy you're here. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I don't know that I would want to picture a talking dick face.
Would there be another mouth? Because I'm picturing one now. Because now I'm wondering where the mouth would go. Or
I think we know where the mouth is. You'd have to add two little googly eyes.
And is there a nose or no?
No nose. Don't need a nose. Just a little mouth and two googly eyes.
All right.
Is the mouth vertical or horizontal?
That was where I was going.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't. Why are we talking about this? What happened? I brought it up. I brought it. It's my fault.
You said you didn't want to picture it, so
I don't. And then I see you looking off into the distance, like contemplative, and I'm like, is he actually thinking of what a dick face would look like? Because I now am worried about how things are going in your world, and across the table for me, I'm getting a little scared as the more time it goes on.
And this is why we're big in Dubai.
Yeah, huge in Macau.
In Macau.
They are liking the dick talk. That's what I'm saying. So are you ready for the newest chapter in Your Friend Melissa is an Alien, the Optometry edition?
Oh my, what's happening?
Okay. So my primary care physician's been leaning on me to get an eye exam. It's been 3 years, and she's like, you need one. I'm like, because I'm old or why? Because I don't really have a lot of eye issues. And it's always fun for me to go with my old friends to like a restaurant, and they have to pull out their glasses or turn on the flashlight for their iPhone. And I'm like,
my peepers.
It says spinach artichoke dip. Fucking order it, bitch. Stop squinting. I'm the only one who can fucking read for the whole table. It's like I'm Anne Sullivan and everyone else is fucking Helen Keller. And I'm like, it says artichoke dip. God damn it. I mean, it's just okay. So I don't have a lot of eye issues for my old age, for my elderly years is what I'm saying. So I go to get my eyes examined, and my PCP is insistent that I get the retinal imaging because they look at the whole eyeball. And so I go, and they, put your head in a thing where your chin and your forehead are resting on plastic, and
like Malcolm McDowell style. Like
it's almost there, baby. Yeah. It's almost there.
Yeah.
I know you think I'm kidding.
Yeah,
it's almost there. And they close like a curtain, so the room is dark, and it's just like the doctor's assistant who does this part, not the actual eye exam. So I'm there, and I'm forgetting. I forget that I'm an alien and digital shit and I are not.
Oh, shit.
And so it starts going, follow the green dot. And then it starts going. And then the machine holding my face starts to squeeze my face.
No.
Yes, sir. And I go, this is uncomfortable. And she goes, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. No. This has never happened before. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. No. I'm so sorry. The machine is going kooky. It's kooky. And I go, is that an industry standard term?
That's the actual term.
So she goes, hold on a minute. I'm going to go get the doctor. And I'm like, okay. So, because it literally was hurting. It was hurting my face. It was squeezing my face.
Did she let you out of the machine?
I backed away, and she went to get the doctor. And he goes, okay, so what's going on? And she explains it. And I go, look, they're both like, I've never seen that before. And I go, I have raised my hand. I have an idea. And they're like, oh, do you? Yeah. Like they think I'm going to go, I service these machines in my spare time, and it's your flux capacitor. I think that's broke. Did you start it and restart it? Right, exactly. Yeah. Right. Could you turn it off and back on? Right. I go, look, this could be me. I have issues with digital items. And they're like, you mean you don't like them? And I go, it's not whether I like or dislike. They're a necessary evil. They don't like me. And they're like, okay. And so they go, oh yeah, no one believes me. Okay. Yeah. So it's like, okay, so I got enough for the righty. Let's try the left eye. Alrighty. Put my face back in the torture thing. Follow the green dot. And I'm like, now I'm afraid it's going to start smoking.
Sure.
It's literally going back and forth, left to right, forward and backward, and up and down.
Oh God.
And in a fast series of motions. No. And the doctor's like, I've never seen this before. And I go, look, I understand you probably don't believe me. And I didn't even break out the, I'm an alien part. I don't want to frighten them that much. I go, you probably don't believe me, but may I explain what happened 10 days ago, just as an example? And he's like, sure. I was like, I went to my primary care doctor here in California. Some medical facilities are still very into the take your temperature, wear a mask every time you wake up in the morning till you go to bed, whatever. So I'm standing out on Wilshire and 9th in Santa Monica. They won't let you in the building until they take your temperature. And they, she holds the digital thermometer to my forehead and then holds the digital thermometer to my forehead and then holds and I'm just standing there. She goes into the urgent care, gets a second digital thermometer, holds it to my, no, holds it, goes and gets batteries, changes the batteries, comes back, takes my, and I said, let me guess, does it give you an odd number? And she goes, yes, it says your temperature's 90. And I said, that would mean I'm deceased.
Right.
And she goes, right. And I said, you see me, don't you?
I'm alive.
I'm here, right? You see me? She goes, I see you. And I go, and the point is, I don't have a fever, right? And she goes, right. And I go, may I enter the building? So I go in, and they had already heard by the time I get to the third floor what happened out on the street.
Oh, for sure.
Aliens arriving, secure sector 7. The alien is here. So I get on the elevator, I get off, and they're like, we're going to take your temperature. I'm like, can't wait. And she goes, okay, 95. And I go, great.
Perfect.
And she goes, you're very close to hypothermia. And I'm like, I'm not.
Yeah.
So, okay. So I go, so I explain this to the eye doctor, and he goes, okay, I got it. Mm-hmm. So I go in for my eye test, and he's like, okay, this, better left, better right, this. And then he goes, yeah, so look at your retinal imaging. I mean, the veins in your eyes are great. You have no glaucoma, cataracts, macular degeneration. The nerve from your eye to your brain is perfectly healthy and blah. And I'm like, great. And he goes, you really don't have much of a prescription. I go, I know. He goes, one eye's 20/20, the other eye's, slightly less. I mean, I could write you a prescription for like maybe night driving. And I go, yeah, I have classes for that made me nauseous. And I said, when you call and say this makes me sick, they go, you just have to get used to them. And I would, you don't. They make you fucking throw up. No. I would wear them at night when I'm driving thinking this is super cool. I can now see into the future. I don't need to see a mile away. I don't. So but then if I got out of my car, the sidewalk would come toward me and I would want to vomit.
Right, totally.
So he goes, do you have those glasses with you? And I said, I do. I went to the car and I got them. And he goes, oh yeah, this is way too strong of a prescription. And I go, did the optometrist make a mistake last time? And he goes, no, probably not. And I go, well, what's going on? He goes, oh, your eyes got better.
They get better? That's a thing?
I said, so 3 years go by and they're better. And he goes, yeah, it happens. And I go, I see. So you're saying I have Benjamin Button eyes? When will I be able to see actually into the future?
Right.
So anyway, I broke the retinal imaging machine.
Hey, good work.
Thank you. Didn't mean to. Forgot I was me.
Wow.
Didn't warn them, sat down and then watched it literally go fucking haywire.
Yeah.
It was scary.
Wow.
Like really fast.
Well, I'm glad you didn't like flip it into the laser eye surgery mode.
And
it starts,
it's just like cutting
scalpels.
Yeah,
and,
definitely Malcolm McDowell.
Yeah,
Clockwork Melissa.
Clockwork Melissa.
Yeah, let's just call it that. Jesus Christ. Okay.
Oh boy.
So I wanted to say thank you to Xavier, who gave me a lovely compliment. He is a Marine and he went through law enforcement training, and he said he is really enjoying, he just found the podcast a couple weeks ago, and he said he's enjoying listening to it because he says, I know my stuff. So that's a big compliment from a Marine. I also should let you know, Xavier, I don't know shit, but I'm a good talker.
She's modest.
I'm not at all. Yeah. I'm not at all. Speaking of modest, how's your junk? Is that the perfect segue?
Perfect segue.
Can I just tell you, I've had several tipsters write in and say they've already ordered the lawnmower and the, I don't know, the platinum balls kit or whatever. And
wow, right on.
Can I say thank you to you, Joshua, for sending me the first manzillion video of a man getting his manzillion, which I didn't know was a word.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't know it was a term.
Manzillion.
Yeah.
That was a video not of me, by the way.
No, it wasn't.
No.
That
was
it was from the dude's perspective. It was quite funny. And the esthetician was hilarious.
Oh boy.
She was really funny and enjoyed ripping off the hair, which is not, you don't need that. If you're in a porn film or something and you want to be a hairless cat, do that. But sure. Why not just use Manscaped products?
No, I like it. And speaking of which, support. Oh boy.
Sorry, Matt.
Speaking of which, support for Just the Tipsters is brought to you by Manscaped, who are the best in men's below-the-waist grooming, and I appreciate it, Manscaped, sending out the whole package to us, and the package. The package that you sent me is doing very well on my package. I like to keep it trimmed. I don't want the manzillion.
No, you don't want to have to go through that.
No. Hey, boy, and the girl in that video was just too.
She was great.
Oh God, yeah.
She was too hands-on.
She was enjoying it way too much. She was definitely enjoying the pain.
I wonder if estheticians are sometimes like complete
masochists.
Yeah, just total masochists.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Sadists.
Sadists.
Yeah, sadists.
I'm pretty sure they all are. Yeah. Like all dentists really like that too. I think
that's wrong. You stop that.
Am I being racist?
Yes, that's totally. Totally racist.
No, but I love the trim. I love to keep it nice and trimmed, clean. But I'm not about to put wax on there. And
you don't need that when you've got the amazing products from Manscaped.
No, I like it. And if you want to order one, you can go to manscaped.com and enter the code. They made us a code, just the tip.
Is that perfect?
It's so good. It's so good. It makes me giggle every time. And they'll give you 20% off plus free worldwide shipping.
And, I couldn't love their, motto more, which is nose to nuts, groom the best you.
I love it.
Nose to nuts, my friends.
I love it.
Thank you, Manscaped.
Thank you, Manscaped.
So this case was suggested to me by my oldest friend, Melissa. She, not old. I've known her the longest. I have to say it correctly.
Sure.
She is a youthful sprite of a girl.
Okay.
And we've known each other since we were 3 or 4. We met in Sunday school, and a shitty kid named Steve tried to squish my bird's nest that I made out of Play-Doh. And I thought Melissa was going to tear Steve apart limb to limb, and we were friends ever since.
Perfect.
Yeah. She is also Melissa Ann, and I'm Melissa Ann.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And she is a angel on earth to me. She is an amazing girl.
I like it.
So she sent me this case, and I was a little shocked. I was like, oh, I feel bad. I am unfamiliar with this. And she said, don't feel bad. I'm unfamiliar with it too. And she lives in the area. So Melissa and I grew up in the Northern Kentucky area, and now Melissa is a resident of Cincinnati, Ohio, just across the river. You know how states come together and connect.
Mm-hmm.
And they call it like the tri-state area.
Sure.
So that's like Ohio, Cincinnati, Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana.
Okay.
It's kind of the tri-state.
That's the tri-state.
Yeah.
There.
Right. So Indiana, I'm just going to call it a weird ass flat land stepchild. And that's how they probably feel about Kentucky.
Okay.
But Indiana is beautiful in some ways, and just, I can't explain it. where it's, it's contiguous states, right? It's only separated by imaginary lines or rivers or whatever. And yet you cross the border from Ohio to Indiana or Kentucky to Indiana, and you're sort of like, I can't explain it.
Mm-hmm.
It's an odd feeling. It's an odd feeling. I can't explain it. But anyway, this is not anti-Indiana, I swear to God. What I'm trying to say is Ohio, Southern Ohio, Northern Kentucky, very close cousins.
Okay.
Some similar topography, a lot of interstate breeding,
Okay.
You go back and forth. Example, my mother was born in Brown County, Ohio, where this case takes place.
Okay.
On a dairy farm, on a rural dairy farm. My grandfather sold the farm in Ripley, which is where this case took place. And they moved when my mom was maybe 10 or 11 back to Kentucky. And he opened a trucking company that was then subsequently purchased by Yellow Transit Freight, big trucking company. Worked with that company for 27 years till he retired. And as long as my mom lived in Kentucky, and it's where she passed away, I still feel that she thought of herself as an Ohio farm girl.
Mm-hmm.
It's, we're talking, 30, 40 miles away, and it just feels different.
Okay.
It just feels, feels different. So this case is from Ripley, Ohio, from Brown County, and it's a 9-year-old unsolved homicide. And I'm going to call it a double homicide because the woman was pregnant. 4 months pregnant when she was murdered.
Oh, boy.
And the thing that bothers me almost as much as this case being unsolved, because I do feel like it's eminently solvable. We're talking about a small rural town and not a lot of suspects, reasons, motives, opportunity. It's just, it's beyond shocking to me that this is still unsolved.
It's still going. Wow.
What else bothers me is that there's been a big push recently because the anniversary was August 28th. So there's been a big push, and that's why Melissa contacted me. She said, hey, this popped up and I hadn't heard of it. And I was like, thank you. And the more I read, I was like, oh, this is an even more interesting case than I, can really put my entire arms around. And then doing more research and then seeing the Brown County Sheriff's Department website, which is pretty well done for a small, agency. And they have a special section on Brittany's case. Her name is Brittany Stykes, and she was a 22-year-old mother. Her daughter was also shot, and her daughter survived.
Oh, wow.
Her unborn child, also a girl, did not.
Wow.
It's a weird one. It's beyond weird, and yet it's chaos, and its weirdness brings you back to simplicity. It just feels like this should be solved. So the Brown County Sheriff's Department is asking for help any which way they can get it. And this is the part that is disturbing, that I'm just going to have to say. I waited as long as I could. I emailed, I called, and I've never gotten any response back. Not even a, hey, we're busy, we can't talk to you now.
Oh, wow.
I, with each message, I would amp it up a little bit and say, hey, I know I live in California now, but I'm from the area. A Cincinnati resident alerted me to this case. I know you're trying to get as much information as possible. This podcast has generated some viable tips on cases in your area. I even listed some of the cases that we've gotten tips on, that were pretty big, well-known cases that they should maybe pay attention to. I haven't gotten anything back.
Wow.
I know.
That seems odd if they're looking for it, they're asking for
help. 9 years later. So this is a rural area. This is another thing that makes it a little more shocking. Brittany was born in this lovely part of Ohio. Her life was about this farm, her family, her siblings, her parents, very involved in her life. she, was in probably like 4-H or something. She would show goats at the county fair. I mean,
Wow,
it's that kind of
nice.
life,
Right.
And even though I'm sure it's more built up now, it was so reminiscent of all the stories my mom told me.
Mm-hmm.
My mom was a very classy, erudite human as an adult, but growing up on a dairy farm, she was like, my favorite pet was a cow.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and she had dogs and chickens and cats, but her favorite pet was a cow.
Sure.
That was like every time she'd walk to school, she would run up to the fence to say goodbye to her.
Oh,
I mean, it's that kind of life.
right.
And this is who she was. She was this, farm girl
Mm-hmm.
who loved her life. She had a boyfriend and they broke up, and then she ends up calling a much older man,
Mm-hmm.
Shane Stykes. Now, at the time of her death, she was 22 and Shane was 38. But when they started dating, she was, 19. So what
Okay.
would that have made him, like 35 or something?
I don't know, man.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Older.
I know you just sit there and be pretty. You just sit there and be pretty. Don't worry about the math. And this is the terrible thing. She was 22 years old, 4 months pregnant, had her daughter in her, favorite yellow Jeep that actually belonged to her husband, Shane. She got pregnant with her daughter, Aubrey, and they got married. And Aubrey was born, a few months
Okay.
later. And then, they had a house. Shane
Mm-hmm.
was working. She, was a homemaker, but she had worked. And here she is pregnant with her second girl.
Okay.
And she is going to visit her father later that day because it was his birthday. His daughter is murdered on his birthday.
Oh, God.
Right. So she is taking their daughter in her beautiful Jeep, and it's August 28th, and she doesn't show up to the family party for her father's birthday. The sheriff's department shows up. Her parents hear sirens,
Mm.
and her mother is like, I have an uneasy feeling. There's just not a lot that goes on there.
Sure.
And when your daughter doesn't show up and you hear sirens,
Right.
so she is found in her Jeep over an embankment. And I gotta find exactly who alerted. I'm trying to remember who alerted the police if someone saw it, because it was a distinctive yellow Jeep. Maybe the yellow showed up. So they find her. Her parents receive a knock on the door. And before they can ask, or before they can say something to him, he says, "Is this about a girl with long dark hair?" And they said, "Yes." And he said, "Does she have a redheaded baby next to her?" And they said, "Yes." And they took him to the scene, and the baby, Aubrey, is still alive. He said he looked at his granddaughter, looked at him and said, "Mama." And she'd been shot right above the eyebrows in the head.
Oh,
She's
no.
had subsequently 4 surgeries, but she is okay. She doesn't have any lasting damage.
Okay.
Brittany had been shot 3 times and was already deceased. He said, as a hunter, her father David said, as a hunter, he noticed the very dark blood coming down the side of her, that he said that's a kill shot if you're hunting a deer.
Oh, you can tell by the color of the blood
Mm-hmm.
which shot. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I think she'd been shot in the head, the side, and the shoulder.
Wow.
So here's this, sweet little girl who was 19 or 20, working at a Subway, broke up with her boyfriend, called Shane Stykes, who had come into her Subway quite often when he was trying to work on himself and go to the gym. And remember how Subway was put out there as some like great weight loss thing? Like you
Sure.
could, wasn't it Jared? Wasn't it the child molester who lost like 100
Yeah,
pounds eating it?
That was a whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, he lost like 100 pounds eating, 1 or 2 Subway things a day or something.
Yeah.
So Shane Stykes takes a page from the Jared. I'm not saying he's a child molester. I'm saying
Right.
takes, from the weight loss, work on yourself, and he was going to the gym, and he and Brittany start dating. She gets
Okay.
pregnant, they get married, and he was happy. From all accounts, he was happy. She was happy.
Mm-hmm.
Things were fine. He had been married previously. He's quite a bit older, as I mentioned. He
Right.
had two kids, a boy and a
2 kid.
girl, and she was apparently a wonderful stepmother
Uh-huh.
to them. Everything was fine.
Okay.
Everything was going fine. So we think.
Mhm.
I think it's odd that Shane has said, and not a lot. No one in the family has talked very much. Shane has said from minute one, I know who did this.
Okay.
And he says, I know who they are, but we're not personally acquainted. And when he says, I know who they are, I think what he means is, I think this is who did it.
Sure.
I don't know exactly what he means. He says the police know what he means, but he, of course, was person of interest number
Of
one.
course. Yeah, the spouse always is.
Uh-huh.
Where was he that day?
There you go. Great questions, Joshua.
Okay.
He was 15 minutes away at the gym. He was at work, and then he was at the gym,
Mhm.
and then he went home. When his wife and baby are not there, he thinks his wife and baby are at his father-in-law's birthday party.
She already left for
Yeah,
it. Okay.
yeah, that she's there celebrating with her family,
Mhm.
and he didn't go. I don't know why he didn't go, but he said he kind of fell asleep on the couch after he'd gone to the gym. He worked all day, went to the gym, came home. It's 11:30 p.m. There's a knock on his door, and he said the Brown County Sheriff's Office burst in. Do you own, the first thing they say, do you own a yellow Jeep? Yeah. He said he'd inherited the Jeep from his father. And basically after he and Brittany got married, she took over it. He said she loved it so much. He just let her drive it all the time.
Mhm.
And he said, yeah. And the first thing they say is, your baby's been shot. He's like, well, where's my wife? They let him know, your baby's still alive, but your wife isn't.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. They test his hands for gunshot residue. They question him. In his words, he has taken 2 lie detector tests, and the Brown County Sheriff's Department confirms that. He says he passed.
Mhm.
Now, they don't confirm it, but that isn't unusual because they don't usually,
Okay.
I have such a, I'm, the more I know, the more questions I have. Like, I love the idea of human remains detection dogs. I also, dogs want to please their trainer.
Right. That's dogs are tough. Dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think any tool you have that you can use to help is a great thing.
Mhm.
The same way with polygraphs.
Mhm.
A polygraph, in my mind, is basically used to see how the person reacts to being asked to take a polygraph.
Sure. Yeah.
It's a tool to see how they're going to react.
If you're yeah, exactly. If you don't want to take it, why don't you want to take it?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It ultimately doesn't fucking matter. They're not admissible in court.
Sure.
Why it still uses a tool, I don't know. But we've seen people who pass them who are straight up motherfucking narcissistic sociopaths who can pass anything, and people who have failed who have had nothing to do with anything.
Sure. Yeah.
Look at me. What do you think would happen if I took one?
I don't think
no answer. What do you think would happen?
I don't think it matters what the
results are.
Were, whatever. I think you're failing. I think no matter what the accusation,
you're right. Yeah,
I think
probably.
I think your
if you have
body is all over the place, so the needle's going haywire. You're going to be nervous. It's going to be haywire even more. Yeah. No, I
think if I took one, it would fly off of the table.
Right. The needle's going to smack the machine so hard that it's going to knock it over.
Yeah.
Sure. Absolutely.
Possibly.
Yeah.
If they're digital. I mean, I don't know. Are they more of an analog thing?
I don't know.
I don't know how they operate.
I've seen what I've seen on TV.
Yeah, they hook you up, and it's like your sweat, like your sweat glands, your heart rate. So I guess it's kind of digital. It's probably digital. If anyone's a polygrapher out there, let me know, because I'm pretty sure I'd blow the motherfucker up.
Sure.
And then they'd be like, "Oh, she not only killed this guy, she is the instigator of the Holocaust. She killed 6 million Jews." And a lot of other people we don't know about yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
I apologize. I'm sorry, Matt. Right. Right. So Shane ostensibly has a what's the word when you're someplace else?
Alibi?
Thank you.
Okay.
Shane has an alibi. And it doesn't matter in my mind because I don't think they think Shane did it.
Sure.
I think they think Shane had someone do it.
I mean, it's an alibi. It's not a crazy good one. I was home napping on the couch.
No, not at the time. No,
I
it
mean,
happened much earlier.
oh, it did
So
happen
he was
earlier.
at work. He was
Okay.
at the gym. He said
So
he went
he's
to the Tri-County Mall, which I know where that is. And then
okay.
he was at home sleeping when they notified him.
Oh, when it happened, he was
Yes.
clocking into the gym,
Yeah,
clocking out
yeah,
of
yeah.
work, all of that.
He
Okay.
was seen places doing things, you know.
Sure.
So to me, his alibi is his alibi.
Right.
I don't think they think he did it. I mean, swabbing him for gunshot residue, understood. Questioning him,
Yeah.
understood. Young parent, you know, she was pregnant before they got married.
Right.
Perhaps he, you know, didn't want more kids, whatever. There's
Sure.
lots of reasons someone would or would not do something like that. I don't think they think he did it. I think they think he might know more than he's saying.
Okay. I hear that.
See what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think they made a big show of coming in the house and making it seem like we know you're involved somehow, whether, you know, he did it or not. He said they busted the door down. Basically, they started grilling him, you know, and there's really good information about this case on NBC Dateline and a really great article on medium.com. A wonderful journalist. I'll give you her name in a minute too, but you know, they said your wife's gone, you know, and he's like, where's my daughter? She's being flown to Children's Hospital. Children's Hospital in Cincinnati is a stellar hospital, and that's
Cool. Good.
where you would want someone to take your child who has been shot in the head.
Yeah.
And she was in intensive care. So her father David is like, you know, we heard all these sirens, and they find out when their son-in-law calls and said someone killed Brittany. The mother and the father drive to where the sirens are. And that's when the grandfather says, I could tell my daughter was dead.
Wow.
And my granddaughter says, Mama.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine that that's how you find out on your birthday that your 22-year-old daughter has not died in a car accident, which would be terrible enough, is murdered. And your granddaughter, you don't know if she is going to survive.
No. Wow.
I mean, I can't even imagine. So Aubrey is 18 months old and she's in the passenger seat. And this is the part, I find this quote odd. The vehicle is found deep in the woods and Brittany is dead behind the wheel. Now, I'm going to tell you, Shane has some interesting theories. I don't know how viable they are, but, you know, there are probably accident reconstructionists or, you know, police detectives who can say that it didn't happen that way or it might have happened this way. When someone is shot in their car and then their car is found in a different area, I'm like, did she drive there to meet someone? And there's another element to this case. I don't know that it's confirmed, but Shane says Brittany was involved in a angry interaction earlier in the day. And he said the police know about it and he knows the person's name. We'll get to that. I don't know if it was an interaction that would cause her to be shot 3 times and then a pregnant woman to be shot 3 times and then her daughter to be shot in the head. I think that I don't know what sort of person it takes. I don't know what sort of person it takes to shoot an 18-month-old above the eyebrow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
But the shot went in one way and out the other and she's fine.
Wow.
It's amazing the cases we've covered, the resiliency of children. You know, Henry Louis Wallace's, you know, victim whose child was strangled with a towel and survived.
Right.
I don't understand everything.
So she's 11, 12 years old and doing fine now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess she's
10,
11. Yeah, 11. She was 18. She's probably closing in on 12. Beautiful long red hair. I will tell you, there's a picture on the NBC Dateline website that bothers me. She looks a lot like her dad and not like her mom, like the red hair gene won out.
Okay.
And she's got this long, beautiful red hair, but there is a sadness in this little girl's face. And she is sitting in the passenger seat of the yellow Jeep. Her father got it back from the Brown County Sheriff's Office and said, I want to keep it. There are, I know, bullet holes and all.
Oh my.
He
Wow.
said there are great memories in this
Sure.
van, in this Jeep. It was our first date. We went off-roading in my Jeep. And there's the little girl sitting in the seat. She obviously was 18 months old and doesn't remember, but I can't help but feel, I don't know that that is a great exercise. Some people might think it would
I don't know.
bring, like some sort of closure, which there's not going to be any, but some sort of peace if you can overcome, like, I don't know. I don't know
I
if
don't
that's
know.
a
That's
good
tough.
thing. I know. And I don't have a kid, so I
That's tough.
can't dole out, parenting advice.
Sure.
But I don't like that picture at all. And I don't think I would like it in any form. Like if she's sitting in it and smiling, I still wouldn't like it. But she's sitting in it and this little girl just looks,
Mm,
it's a sadness.
mm,
Maybe it's because her mom's not there. And she says, maybe it's because, kids are so impressionable. Maybe she takes on what her dad says, but she's like, I want to sit in this car and I want to remember my mom. And I'm like, oh.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's
Her grandparents say we don't want her to be 14 years old and say what happened to my mom and who did this. And now she's closing in on 12
right.
and no one still, and people know.
Well, yeah. I mean, and obviously Shane has some suspicions. What's
He said that he has, given all of those to the police, and the police are not saying much, which I respect, except not saying much, like not even answering an email
mm,
from me. But he
yeah.
said terrible. I will just be honest. He said he has no faith. Stykes has no faith in the Brown County Sheriff's Department. He said I have called and they have said
Mm.
we don't have it. I'm going to get to that. Hold on.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
At
I didn't
first he
jump the gun.
called. No, I know. It's because you're asking such great questions and I want to get it all out at once, but I can only get out one sentence at a time and I'm like way ahead of myself and I blah, 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 blah. So the sergeant
Mm-hmm.
of the Brown County Sheriff's Office says we don't have many homicides every year and something like this is exceedingly uncommon. The more you looked into Brittany's life, there just didn't seem to be any reason behind it. There are bullet holes in the vehicle. There are no shell casings. And she was found just south of an intersection on State Route 68, which is where her parents lived off of and where her and Shane lived,
Mm-hmm.
Goose Lake Road. So it's a very rural area. There just can't be like a huge amount of suspects. I don't think this was a random. And the police say
Right.
we don't think this was random either.
Okay.
And Shane says, that. But so this is what is really disturbing to me. He said, I would call, and say anything new. They would have, in his turn, he sounds like a, Cheech and Chong movie. They're hassling me, man.
Hmm.
He's like, they hassled me for years, and I kept thinking, hopefully they're making progress. And he would call. This is the part that bothers me a lot. He would call, and at points they would say, we know who did this. We're close to getting a break. And then he would call a week or two later and they'd say, we would have nothing. And in his words, hang up on him.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know if that's true, if that's his perception. I can tell you that surviving family members of victims often feel pushed off by police, whether they
Sure.
are or not. And they could
Right.
very well be. And it could be they just are not going to get an answer they want and they feel like they're not being held, they're not being treated respectfully.
Right.
And it could be that the investigators are tired of answering questions. It could be that they feel bad about themselves. It's not a
Oh,
good, I'm not giving
yeah.
him an excuse. I'm
No,
not
no,
giving
no.
them an excuse.
Totally.
I'm just putting that there. So the article in medium.com written by Jennifer Baldwin is beautifully done. And I have issues. The reason I like to talk to law enforcement is because they have the actual details and facts. Sometimes you have to remind them of things, you have to ask questions, and they go, let me look that up for you. But I have over the years become increasingly more a suspect of journalists because there's not a lot of journalists left in the world.
Mm-hmm.
There are people who enjoy spouting their own narrative.
Sure.
So something like medium.com is such a great name. At first, I thought it was all about psychics who talk to dead people.
Oh, right.
It's not. I feel like they're called medium because they are right in the middle of the road. And I don't
Okay.
mean politically, because I think they're probably sort of left wing, but
Okay.
you don't know for sure. It's just, what you perceive. But it's like crowdsourcing for journalism. It's authors from all over, and you put stuff up, and if it gets enough readers or followers, I guess then they start paying you.
Oh, cool.
The first review of this podcast ever was 4 years ago. An amazing girl named Elsie Brown wrote a review, like her top 10 true crime podcasts, and we were like, I don't know, number 8 or something.
Right on.
And she said something adorable like, Melissa is a straight shooter and tells you like it is, sort of like if your mom were doing true crime or something. And it made me happy because I'm not a parent. It made me, and she's really young and sweet, and we've actually become friends. She's an amazing girl. So medium.com covers things in a way, and this author is really lovely because, she starts off talking about this terrible story, but says, young families have everything to look forward to. They're just starting out in their life. And then something like this happens.
Yeah.
That's like a beautiful way to set it up. It's not just straightforward reporting, which I like, but it's also not her own narrative. That's a truth.
Right.
That's
Totally.
a truth right there.
Totally.
A young family starting off, with everything to look forward to, and then, here's this young girl with no seeming, enemies. So it's like, oh, here we go. Here's where. Thank God. It's 7:00. There's a couple driving on Route 68, and they spot the Jeep off the road, and they pull over to inspect it, and they see Brittany shot in the neck, chest, and arm, and Aubrey is shot in the head but still alive. So that's how it was. A couple that saw, and it's a very bright, distinct matte yellow, and that makes sense. I'm actually glad to know that that's how it happened. And that's 7 p.m. She was probably on her way to her father's, birthday party. And then by 11:30, they have come into Sean's, home and said, your wife's gone and your daughter's in intensive care. So Shane says, I know who killed my wife, and I'm not going to name the person. He said he believes he knows who's involved. And, he told the police, and he says they just don't think they have enough to corroborate what he's saying.
Okay.
This is pretty weird. In 2015, the police thought they got a viable lead, and it was a woman who claimed her boyfriend had been the one to kill Brittany. She also said she was present at the time and witnessed the murder, but her story was dismissed because they really couldn't substantiate anything she said. I don't know if it was someone who thought they were trying to be helpful, who, that happens a lot. People say, it's like that dude that lived in Vietnam and said he was present in the room when John Benet Ramsey was murdered, and they fly, arrest him, and, it was in Thailand or something. And it turns out he just, was like, a nut who was a child, predator who wasn't even in the country at the time, and, said he was like astral projecting. And
oh, wow.
Yeah. So, so the police say they have a theory.
Okay.
I think they probably have a couple. And they say they don't know that Brittany knew her killer personally. I think what they mean is that they think Shane knew.
Okay.
I don't know if this is, we could sit and postulate all sorts of shit. Was it a jealous ex-girlfriend? Was it, a jealous ex-boyfriend?
Okay.
Was it XYZ? The police, the Brown County Sheriff's Department says they think they know what the motive is, and that there's several, good leads, but they can't arrest anyone and they don't have a weapon. They said they aren't sure where, this is an interesting thing. They aren't sure where the gunshots come from. They aren't sure if someone approached the Jeep or if Brittany was shot from another vehicle. And here's the other, police are hoping people come forward. Here's something, maybe return the phone call of somebody who wants to cover the case on a podcast. So,
right.
The relationship between Brittany's parents, Dave and Mary, and her husband, Shane, is rocky at best. Dave and Mary filed for custody of Aubrey.
Okay.
After a month, they dropped the case. I think they wanted to keep a relationship and somehow, and I think they felt they wouldn't get custody of her, so they dropped the case.
Oh. Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whether they really wanted to drop the case or not, I think they did because they thought if it goes in the other direction, then they would never have a relationship with her.
Right.
I think they're cordial, if that's
Okay.
a word.
Sure.
I don't know. Yeah.
And is there any indication about like what their relationship was with the in-laws before
I don't
this?
think it was um it feels like medium.com. It feels like, you know what I mean? It wasn't
Okay.
contentious, but maybe they weren't, this is my son-in-law. Like, do you remember Lacey Peterson? Her parents were like, Scott would never have anything to do with this.
Oh, okay.
They loved their
They love
son-in-law.
him, right?
I don't think it was, Shane had nothing to do with this. But I don't think it was like Shane obviously did this.
Right.
I think it
Okay.
was,
Sure.
they lived like a mile away from each other. They
Right.
had houses on the same, Route 68,
Mm-hmm.
or off of Route 68. I mean, I don't think it was, they weren't constantly at loggerheads, and I don't think they were
It just
always
was.
hugging each other. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I'm
So I
wrong.
shouldn't read anything into the fact that he didn't want to go to his father-in-law's birthday party.
Well, I didn't want to say anything about that, but I'm like, hey, you know what? You big family, and maybe you're tired and you don't want to go to your father-in-law's birthday.
Yeah.
But you're fine if your wife and your pregnant wife and your daughter go. You work all day, you go to the gym. I'm not saying it's a good excuse. I'm just
I don't
saying,
know.
look, I shouldn't comment jack shit. I'm an only child of an only child.
Right.
I tried to force my husband, the oldest of 7, to go to every fucking family event possible. And we lived 300 fucking miles south of them. And we'd have to get in the car and drive to goddamn motherfucking Modesto, California.
Sorry, nobody drives to Modesto. People drive through Modesto.
Away from. And we drove for 15 years.
Oh, man.
And the whole time Mark was like, okay. I was the one who wanted him to have a closer relationship with his family.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have one.
You didn't.
And I thought, this is my chance to be in the Waltons.
Sure.
No, no, sir.
Sure. And so
I can't
dynamics
comment.
are the thing.
That's right.
Right.
I can't comment on their relationship. All I know is after the murder, things did not go well. And I get that.
Right.
That totally. I get. So Shane has a very interesting theory. He says, hold on. I'm sorry, Matt, I have to cough. And Joshua has to cough. One day, Matt, I'll be rich enough and I'll get a cough button, but don't bet on that. So he says, I think she was pulled. Shane Stykes says, I think she was pulled over to the side of the road and they got out and fired. Like maybe someone had a fake blue light on their dashboard.
Oh.
He said she must have thought it was the police who pulled her over, and he said there's no way she got shot on the right side of the road and then somehow ended up over an embankment on the left side of the road. There's no way that happened because if she had been at a dead stop when she got shot, her foot came off the clutch, she would have idled across the road, down the road, into the ditch, and hit that ditch at a very low rate of speed, which would have created no damage. The impact of the landing from the Jeep bent the front differential of the car into a U shape.
Oh.
I believe she was paced alongside and fired on.
Huh.
What do you think? I love your brain working.
Wow. So she's driving along toward her parents' house. And I didn't catch this when you said it the first time. She ended up swerving to the left and ended up in the ditch across the road. Okay. Which, yeah, if she's stopped, you don't accidentally, if you've got you're stopped in a Jeep, you don't accidentally drive forward. You don't accidentally just idle. You've got a clutch. You've got to actually do it. If your foot just pops off the clutch because you die, roll. Well, you either stall out or you
You roll
or you
slowly.
roll slowly. Sure.
Okay.
If so, yeah, okay.
Thank
That
you. I don't drive a stick shift, so I don't know that. I appreciate
well,
that.
no, I mean if you're stopped and you have your foot on the clutch
Mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden you get shot and your foot comes off the clutch, I'm imagining it's going to be hard to accidentally get the Jeep into gear.
Gotcha.
I don't think it's impossible,
Right.
but I'm imagining it would be difficult. Or the other, I mean, so Shane sounds like he's got that's a good theory that they were still moving, still going. She gets shot and tweaks the wheel to the left, ends up crashing at a high rate of speed.
Enough to bend the differential.
Yeah, that's probably a pretty good. I mean, depending on how, I guess that could happen if it's a far drop
Right. Down an embankment.
down a
Yeah.
looping embankment. Either way, no matter how fast you're going.
Okay.
I don't know. Or the other side of it is she is stopped, realizes it's
Danger.
danger,
Mm-hmm.
and then tries to slam
Right.
on the gas and
Right.
get it out of there, but doesn't make it because she's shot.
That is also something I thought about, and I don't know much about stick shifts, but that is something I
Sure.
thought about. I didn't know if that would happen or if, like what you said, as soon as you said stall out, I thought, oh shit, if you're panicked, maybe you do something and you stall.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to accidentally drive a manual transmission.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm not sure. I'm not sure accidentally or unconsciously because you're dying. I don't know. Maybe.
Right. Right. So Shane says earlier that day his wife was threatened in a strange encounter. I don't know what the word strange means. He said there was some type of confrontation. The police are well aware of it between my wife and someone in a white or silver minivan as she was on her way to my mother's house. And that was in the morning
Oh wow.
before all
Okay.
of this. I guess someone ran her off the road or something, and she had sent a text to a friend of hers cursing. And that was very unlike her. She didn't do that type of thing.
Hmm. He he heard her voice to text, or he read her text later.
No, her friend got a text.
Oh, her friend showed the text later.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Siren. Sorry. He said, nobody called me. I just got my door pounded down.
Hmm.
So when reporters ask, the Brown County Sheriff's Office, do you think that Shane Stykes shot and killed his wife? They say, absolutely not.
Okay.
They know he didn't do it. I
Mm-hmm.
think they think he knows,
Yeah.
Shane said, the sheriff's department called me on the phone and told me they had someone that they were looking at. And then I said, who is this guy and what has he done to my wife and how does he know me? And then he was told, okay, that's just a person of interest and he's not charged. And he said, Mr. Stykes, we just don't have anything to tell you at this point. And he hung up on him.
Wow.
I don't know if that's true. I don't know, but so there is an image of her, a surveillance image of her going past a McDonald's just like a few minutes before she's like found dead.
Okay.
I don't know that that helps anything, but it's such a distinctive Jeep. I feel like if you knew something, you would. I had not heard about this silver minivan,
Mm-hmm.
or silver car before. I really had not. So just kind of digging around. So there's a couple of theories as to what happened to Brittany. Who has I have such a hard time with anyone who takes someone else's life and thinks they don't have to pay for it or that they can
Mm-hmm.
somehow do that. But who kills a pregnant mother, whether you know she's pregnant or not? Who kills a pregnant mother and who shoots an 18-month-old
Right.
baby in the head?
That's
This is like some sort of, assassination level bullshit.
right.
And she is not the kind of girl who lived a life to be assassinated.
Yeah.
A girl that worked at Subway who got pregnant and got married,
Mm-hmm.
who married a man who, had a job, had two previous kids from a relationship. They lived in a house a mile from her parents. Everything was going fine. He called her an angel. He called his wife an angel.
Mm,
I get it that people say shit they don't mean. It doesn't strike me as something that is not real, you know?
yeah. Yeah, I'm very curious as to, I mean, with these holes, I'm wondering what else was going on. What, who else was involved in something, or what, maybe she was involved in something else that weren't is not clear.
Well,
Maybe, somebody else
uh,
around her, the husband or parents or
right.
somebody.
I feel like her parents are probably innocent
Right,
parents. I don't know enough about Shane, but he presents as someone without, you know, a lot of skeletons, but I don't know.
right,
Brittany was vetted as she did not have a life where,
right.
it's the first thing when someone's murdered that
Yeah,
you think, well, what were they doing? It's just
yeah.
natural. It's not victim blaming.
Sure.
It's trying to find a methodology as to why someone would do this. Not that they ever deserved it.
No, 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 no. I'm just wondering,
Yeah.
because if he knows,
He says he
or
knows. I don't know what that means, and maybe
then,
he's wrong.
oh, and it could be that he's wrong,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, absolutely.
but
But I'm
here's
wondering,
what
what
we
is it
know.
that he knows, and
Well, he said he's told the police, and they,
why aren't they releasing it, or whatever? Why don't they have enough yet?
here's something I feel like we know. I feel like we know someone knows.
Hmm.
And while I don't have a lot of faith in this, I'm going to give you the number to the Brown County Sheriff's Office. They have
Absolutely.
a special extension for tips on Brittany's case. I'm also going to give you a Crime Stoppers number, and I'm going to give you the number for us here at Just the Tipsters. So the Brown County Sheriff's Office number is 937-378-4435, extension 130. And that is the person in charge of Brittany's case that maybe you'll have a better chance of getting a call back. The Crime Stoppers number is 1-888-352-3040. And our number here at Just the Tipsters is 837 Tipster. That's 837. No, Jesus Christ. 832 Tipster. Wow. I'm fired.
Yeah.
832-847-7837. That's 832 Tipster. You can email us at jttipsters@gmail.com. You can find us on all the social media platforms, Just the Tipsters Facebook page, at JTT Tipsters on Instagram, at JT Tipster Pod on Twitter, and more cowbell. Wow, I'm firing myself.